Everything good, son? Need to charge up? No, all the batteries are full from the drive. Dad, this is my new girlfriend, Demi. Dad likes to charm, but he's faithful to Mom, and he seemed to take to Demi. Welcome, Demi, come on in. Thanks, just inside. Mom popped up. There you are. Hello, Nolan. Demi, come chat with me. Brent, take Nolan for a drink. Sure thing, okay, Mom, be nice, please, always. Dad and I headed to his car, a new Nissan Leaf. I was puzzled. Can't we just walk? The fountain's shut, the next pub's the George in Upper Denby. We could walk, but my knees have been acting up. You never mentioned that, Dad. It's nothing serious, just age, why I stopped working. Shame about the pub. Yeah, as we drove off in the quiet car, Dad liking the Leaf. Quiet saves money, know about gas, and your bus, too big for daily drives. Got a bike on the back, love riding it. You always liked your bikes. Now, what's this about a new girl? She's cute for sure, Dad. I just wanted to help her out, she's got a sad tale. Not at all, she never asked for anything. Been through tough times, but she's not like those scam folks who start with a sad story right away. Took a while, but I think I get her story now. But, Dad, you got to listen to her play, she's amazing. Dad said. Not really into it. At the George, Dad had one ale, and I did the same. Tasted better than I remembered at the fountain. The guy running the place, or at least his helper, knew how to keep the beer good. After we had coffee and went home after a bit. Now about my mom, worked in social work for over 30 years. Not exactly calling herself a feminist, but she thinks women should do any job they're good at and want to do. But she also says men and women are different in some ways, making them better or worse at different things. Let's not dive into that. She made sure I could cook and take care of myself. She didn't like Beverly, just was cautious at first, but after the divorce, she was openly not a fan. Beverly couldn't cook or do housework well. Mom also didn't like how Beverly chose to decorate. So, what do we find coming home? A nice smell of baking, a table set for tea with scones. Demi made those, fresh bread, Mom's cheese straws, butter, and jam all there. And for the warm touch, crumpets and tea cakes in the toaster, ready to be hot and soaked with melted butter. Mom and Demi, they hit it off, talking like they've known each other forever. I had guessed right, and it felt good to see it come true. There were just 2 rooms to sleep in, one big one for my folks, and another good-sized one with a big bed and its own bath for guests. I had thought about many ways it could go, but what really happened was the least likely one I had in mind. Nolan, I talked with Demi, and you 2 will sleep in the guest room. Just try to keep it down, okay? And Nolan Armstrong Bennington, hold on to this one. Demi won over Mom, and an hour of flute playing from old tunes to classical and folk settled it for my dad. It was Mom who finally said we all had a long day, and it was bedtime. Demi and I stayed up a bit, sitting close on the couch until the house was quiet. Your mom is kind, she said. I told her everything like you told me to. That's great, she seems to like you. She even told me not to lose you. I'm not planning on leaving, I'd be dumb to go off on my own. Plus, I think I love you. I think it's a bit early for that, but I've never met anyone like you. Thinking of not having you around feels terrible. For real, yes. Look, I'm an engineer, kind of a science guy. That doesn't mean I'm not interested in other stuff. Right now, what's between us is new and exciting. That might change, but I think if we both put in the work, love will stay. I see us getting old together. I'd like that. Great, then let's get married before the baby comes. Will you? Married? She moved back to look at me. Do you mean it? What will your mother say? I'm totally serious, and don't worry about Mom. If we don't get married, that's when you should worry about what she'd say. Nolan, getting married is more than a dream to me. I want to talk to your mom before I say yes. Is that okay? Of course, it's okay. I moved close and kissed her gently. Tomorrow, your plans? You said something about going to Sheffield. Yes, I need to call IOCM tomorrow and set a time to meet Mr. Van Buren. My plan will depend on when he's free. Oh, she paused. Can I be on top again? She asked with a shy smile. I think that's a great idea, just as long as the light stays on. Her smile grew. She stood up, took my hand, and pulled me up. Shower fun and bed with her being in charge until it was all too much, then sleep with the most beautiful girl on top of me. IEK, how may I help you? A very sweet voice asked. Hi, Nolan Bennington here. I need to see Mr. Vannon, just a sec, she said. Some music played, then a man said, Nolan, can I help you, sir? Then call me Albert, and we'll be good. Thanks for calling. I'm near Sheffield visiting my folks. Thought I'd see when you're free to meet, Albert. That's great. Can you come this morning? I hope it's not too much trouble. No trouble. I'll be on a bike. Just ask for me when you get here. What do you drink? Coffee's good. Black, perfect. See you later then. I found Demi in the kitchen with my mom. Demi was working on bread dough, and Mom was making pastry. Mom looked up. Oh, Nolan, she's a much better choice than last time. Demi just smiled. I have to go to Sheffield, I said. And Oscar, you want to come? Demi, she thought for a bit. I'd love to ride with you, but you'll be busy, and your mom and I have stuff to talk about. So, by 10 o'clock, I was on the road after getting Oscar off the back of the van. I didn't have to go far, just about 20 miles, but the roads across the moors are slow, and 5 miles of it run through busy city parts with lots of cars, red lights, one-way streets, and, of course, buses that stop a lot and slow everyone down. Let's not even talk about the trams. The company had moved to new offices, shiny new ones between the bus and train stations, under the eyes of some Hallam University buildings. I knew a bunch of engineering students would be working as interns at places like IOMC. Luckily, not that it was hard to find a spot for a motorcycle. There was an underground safe parking place which, after a bit of a wait, let me in. I'd never met Albert Vannon before. He was a tall, lean, dark guy wearing blue cargo pants and a matching polo shirt with the company's logo on it. He saw how I looked at him. I like casual clothes when I can. I still manage to squeeze into cabinets now and then just to show my team I still know my stuff. Welcome, Nolan. Let's go to my office. His office wasn't the neat show-off type I was used to with my old boss. Sure, it was clean enough, but there were piles of tech papers everywhere and bits of tech stuff, some looking pretty beat up. He moved some books off a comfy chair and gestured at it. Have a seat, Nolan. As I sat, he wheeled his chair from behind his desk to sit closer to me, not letting the desk make a big boss statement. I like that. I'll get to the point, Nolan. We want you back, and I've got a plan. Actually, a few different plans depending on where you're at right now. Well, Albert, I was a bit unsure about calling a high-up boss by his first name, but this guy was not like the others. I'm not great at making deals, so I just told him straight. Things have changed for me on my travels. I met a girl, and I think we might get married soon. So yes, I did like what I was doing these past weeks, but I want to settle down now. I understand. We were thinking of giving you Mr. Dunn's job, but with more hands-on stuff. You do a lot like before, but also some leading and maybe teaching if that sounds good to you. But we won't make you work 80 hours a week. He then said a salary that made me very surprised, even though it was less per hour than my contractor pay. Also, we wanted to give you a studio flat in West 1 as part of the deal, either pay your rent or help to buy it. I think I'll need something bigger than a studio, Albert. That's what I thought since you plan to marry. I know there are no big places in West 1 right now. How about an updated house or a flat in the city center? I'd prefer somewhere in the west or southwest, just outside the center. I want Demi, my girlfriend, to go to the university, maybe next autumn. Really, another engineer? Maybe. I shook my head. No, not likely. She's into music, plays the flute amazingly well. If we help you find the right house, I'm in, Albert. Really? Surprised the van will work for now, but I'll need to find a place not too far from the city. When do you want me to start? Soon. Tomorrow would be too soon, though. How about next Monday? I just need to find a spot for the van. Great. Just let us know if you run into any issues. Instead of going to the company's food place, Albert took me to the train station. There's this spot called Upper Crust there. They make really fresh, crunchy French bread sandwiches right when you ask for them. Their coffee is not bad either. We sat outside in the open space, talking easily while water flowed and people passed by. When we got back to the company's front desk, and I was about to pick up Oscar, Albert said, "I'm looking forward to next Monday. As long as everything's okay, don't expect to stay the whole day. We'll do some paperwork, have lunch to talk plans, and you can head out before traffic gets bad." Thanks, Albert. I'm excited to start working for you. When I got home, Demi hugged me tight and gave me a big kiss while Mom watched with a smile. When Demi pulled back, she looked up at me with a big grin and said one word, yes. Finding a place for the van turned out to be easier than I expected. There was a spot in Hope with all the things we might need, and it was really close to a train station on the Manchester to Sheffield line. I might not take the train a lot, but it'd be useful, especially when the weather's bad. By the Wednesday after my Monday interview, we had moved in. My mom might have been a bit sad to see Demi go, but being on our own was nice. It gave us a chance to go to town to plan a wedding at the registry office in 4 weeks and to pick up a brochure from the university, the Sheffield University, not the old Poly, and to walk in the park next door. We sat on a bench there, watching ducks and city pigeons fighting. Right in front of us was the big library, all sleek and new, full of glass. But to our right, there sat old F. Hall, built with red bricks, the very first part of the college. Demi love, HM, don't you think we should ring your folks, see if they'd like to come to our wedding? Demi didn't say a thing, just hugged me tighter, dear. She then nodded her head on my chest. If they do, come. Here's the corrected version. I bet my mom and dad will want to meet them, maybe ask them to stay over. She nodded again, quiet as ever. I pulled out my phone. Can I use your phone? She said softly. Mine's a pay-as-you-go and I'm out of credit. Besides, it's the phone I used for work. She meant it was the number her clients called. Of course, love. I should have got you a better phone by now. But let me call my folks first, okay? She nodded and I hit the speed dial for home. Hey Nolan, is all good? It was my mom's voice. All fine. Dim is going to call her parents, see if they'll come to the wedding. Thought you and Dad might want them to stay with you. Yes, that's great. I was just thinking about how to bring that up. Hope they say yes. Cool. Oh Nolan, before you go, is Demi there? Can I talk to her? Sure, I gave the phone to Demi. Hello, Demi looked shocked and didn't speak for a bit. Well, yes, I guess, but... She paused. Thanks, that would mean a lot. She handed back the phone. Mom had already hung up. Your mom says your dad can help me at the university. Yeah, he used to teach there, still gives lectures now and then. He can get me a tryout with the music folks. Great. You're okay with that? Yes, but... She paused. Nolan, I've saved some money. Yeah, but I told you not to worry about that. You don't get it. I've got about $15,000 in the bank, but it's money you made before you knew me, Demi. You shouldn't feel bad. What you did was risky and, well, we won't talk about that now. You made that cash. It's not enough for school, but I bet my dad's already looking into help with money. Even if he's not, there are loans, and I can help pay too. You don't think it's dirty? I think it's cash you worked for to chase your dream. If you don't want to use it, okay, give it to a group that helps hurt women or something. Really? Really? Mrs. Ballas came by train from Edinburgh on Friday night without her husband. My parents picked her up in their car from Sheffield Station. We were there with Oscar. Demi showed her to us, and she gave a small smile. There was room in the car, so Demi went with her mom back to Ingworth, and I followed on Oscar. At least I followed until we left Sheffield, then I sped up to enjoy the ride. Truth be told, the electric car was just as fast as Oscar, but the trip was more about them than speed. I was just a bit ahead of them though when the car stopped, and everyone got out. It was clear Demi and her mom had talked things out, as they were close, and her mom even hugged her waist. They walked over to me while my parents watched. Mrs. Ballas reached out her hand, which I shook. "Thanks for taking care of my daughter," she said. I squeezed her hand back. "She's worth it," I smiled. But then she let go only to hug me tightly. Now Demi is not tall at 5 feet 4 inches and her mom is a bit shorter. The gap in their ages was clear from the gray in her hair and the lines on her face. She might have been a bit heavy, but it was hard to tell. What was sure was how strong she felt as she hugged me tight. I hugged her back and felt her tears on me, her head against my chest. I looked at my mom and dad, gave a quick glance towards the door, and they got the hint and left, though Demi stayed close to her mom. After a while, she let go and took a step back, sniffing. I wanted to give her my handkerchief, but it was inside my suit, so Demi gave her one. Mrs. Ballas wiped her tears and blew her nose. "I was so scared," she said, "and if you hadn't been there, my bad dreams might have come true." "Don't worry about it, Mrs. Ballas. Please call me Darina." "Okay, Darina." "Thank you. Shall we go inside now?" We walked in, Demi holding onto my arm, maybe showing she was there with me inside. Darina, Demi, and Mom went off to the kitchen, while Dad pulled me aside to his study where he keeps his drinks. He showed me a bottle of Laphroaig, but I shook my head. "You know that's not for me. House is better." "Philistin," he joked. But then he said, "It's fine. You have good taste or you wouldn't have found Janka. But why do you call her Demi?" He poured his drink in mine, adding a bit of water to mine. I took a sip. "Robert Heinlein," I answered. He looked puzzled, so I explained. He wrote a big book called Time Enough for Love. The main guy falls for a girl named Demi, called Adorable. When Demi told me her full name was Demetria, it just clicked. Of course, you never got into the weird tales of the future, so you wouldn't know the writer. Dad said, taking a slow sip. He looked worried for a minute, then said, "I talked to Professor Langer from music. He wants to test out Demi next week. She needs a violin and to be able to play a piano. I got a violin for her, a really nice one. She can use a piano at the music place for now, but when you pick a house, you got to buy one. You might need some extra money too." I thought about telling him what Demi told me, but chose not to. Maybe she talked to Mom or even Dad about her past, but if not, I didn't want to stir things up. "I'm good," I said, "and the company will help pay for the house. Plus, I got money from a work issue, enough for a down payment." He nodded, deep in thought. "All right, you've got a plan." "I've been asking around for extra money help," he said, looking at me. "I told Demi it could really help and show that her studying is important," I said. "Well, your mom and I want to help with the money too, in case my searching doesn't pan out," he offered. I smiled and nodded. "I'm grateful for that." "Thanks, Dad." We had a great dinner, grilled fish with lots of different veggies. I skipped the wine, I had already had a strong drink earlier. Demi and I rode Oscar back home and went to bed. We were so tired yet we still touched each other gently. But in the morning when I wanted to be close again, Demi got up fast. "Let's go." I want to go to church. Okay, we got dressed fast and walked quick to the town. We saw a church sign that said there was an early morning service at 8 o'clock, but it was past when we arrived and a family service at 11 o'clock. Demi looked sad and turned away. We have to be at your folks for lunch, she reminded me, in a way. I didn't need to guess. We leave at 10:30, yep. But first, let's grab some breakfast. We headed back to the Van Slower, where Demi made a big breakfast, and I was all in for that. I took a quick shower while she cooked, and she shouted, "Howard," after we ate. By then, it was nearly time to leave. We drove around Sheffield, through the moors on the Strines Road with its big hills and sharp turns, and got to my folks' place just after noon. Right away, Mom and Darina pulled Demi into the kitchen, and Dad handed me a drink. "This one's good," he said, and that way that meant, "You better like this." Barry Cleveland, a mate, brought it from Scotland last week. It's strong, but I watered it down a bit. I tasted it. It was smooth with just a bit of that strong smoky taste. "Some drinks have very nice," I said. It looks like Jenka's dad isn't happy with her choices, sadly, but Darina set on being at the wedding with him or not. Sunday lunch at my parents' is always the same: roast beef that day, with Yorkshire pudding, both roasted and mashed spuds, veggies for the season, gravy, sometimes a sauce for the veggies. Not much talking as we dug in, nor for the rhubarb and apple crumble and ice cream that came after. A soft Merlot with the beef and port to end made us all quite relaxed as we moved to the lounge. But as Demi sat down, Dad took a wooden box from behind the sofa. "Demi, this gift is yours to keep," he said, placing it on the coffee table in front of her. Made by Stefano Scarampella, a top maker of his time. She had treated the flute with care, but the gasp she let out upon seeing what was inside was something else. So did I. The wood had a glow. It was one of the finest things made by hands I've ever seen. She took it out, all eyes on it, and we watched as she tested the strings, tweaked the tuning pegs, put on the shoulder rest, and then picked up the bow to fine-tune. She got up to play, lost in the music, and the violin is one, just like the first time with my recorders and then the flute. It was clear she hadn't played a violin in a long while, but the music flowed. Demi and the violin were a pair. She played Bach bits she'd done on the flute, Hind Chrysler, and more I didn't catch even after she said their names. Mom and Dad looked so happy, but Darina, her mom, was crying hard. Demi finished with a Paganini piece and gently put the violin away to be hugged tight by her mom, Darina still crying a lot. Demi held her calm until Darina could talk. "My dear, I'm so sorry. I knew you had talent, but it's more than that, isn't it? I didn't back you up," and Demi, holding her, patting her back, and making soft sounds, then she kissed her mom on the cheek, whispered to her, and let go. Demi and her mom sat close on a couch, but that was okay. Mom and Dad asked her if she missed her pals, and after a bit, she said she never really had close ones other than playing in the school band and taking music classes. She didn't get much of a chance to make friends. The music took up all her time. Her mom was sad about this, but Demi just hugged her. "I was okay with it," she said. "Music was my thing. It only got tough in my last year when I knew Dad wouldn't let me go to college, and I didn't want to marry any of the guys I knew. They only cared about sports and drinking." "Oh, my love, no worries. Mom, it's all in the past. I've got my Nolan now, and I might be off to college." They had a quick tea, and then it was time to take her mom to the train for Edinburgh. Mom and Dad stayed in the car, so Demi and I walked her to the train. After, we went back to Hope, with her violin in a special case strapped to her back. We cuddled, loved each other slowly, and slept close in the bed over the van's cab. The next day, Demi wanted to go with me to Sheffield. She was looking for fresh veggies and meat. I said I'd meet her for lunch at IOCM Albert. A serious-looking lady, the boss of HR, met me. "Welcome, Nolan," Albert said with a grin. "This is Evelyn Meadow, our HR lead." "Nice to meet you, Miss Meadow," I said, shaking her hand. "Likewise, Mr. Bennington." Albert hoped we could have lunch. I plan to meet my fiancée, I said, a bit stuck. No problem, but maybe she could come too. I didn't get her a new phone yet, so her old one doesn't work, I explained. I really wanted to let her know about this ahead of time, but she's supposed to meet me in the front area at 12:30. I hope that's okay with your plans. Of course, and Evelyn will come too if you're fine with that, Albert said, and I heaved a sigh. Their plans were just fine. Miss Meadow took me to HR, where I had to sign a lot of papers. To my surprise, we got done in time for lunch. Even though getting my pension sorted might take HR a few weeks, she walked me to the front area where Demi was waiting, kind of half sitting on a chair. She looked nervous when she saw me. She stood up quick. I hugged her as warmly as I could without being too much. Demi, this is Miss Evelyn Meadow, who's in charge of HR here. We've been asked to have lunch with Mr. Albert Van Buren, the big boss, and Miss is coming with us. Miss Meadow, meet my fiancée, Janka Balaz. Nice to meet you, Miss Balaz. Welcome to IOCM, Miss Meadow said. Thanks, Miss Meadow. How are you? Demi asked. I'm very good now that Mr. Bennington is joining our team. Mr. Van Buren really wanted him for his skills. I hear you played a big part in his decision, Miss Meadow said, and Demi looked at me, and I nodded. I might have said yes anyway, but I wanted us to have a good place to live. IOMAG made an offer that was too good to pass up. She gave me a look that said, we'll talk more about this later, and held onto my arm just as Albert showed up. Ah, Albert, this is my fiancée, Janka Balaz, he smiled. Good to meet you, Miss Balaz. Hope you don't mind me joining your lunch with Nolan. Not at all, sir. Great, shall we head out? The place we worked at had 2 spots to grab a bite. One was quick with a lot of good food choices, kind of like a cafe. The other was fancy, with servers and all. Not my usual pick because I like to grab my food, eat, and then chill for a bit, but it was quieter, let us talk more, and had some cool dishes to try. By the time we finished eating, we had swapped names. We became Demi and Nolan, and they were Evelyn and Albert. They showed us around after. The company's spot was new to me since they had moved. Demi was polite, taking it all in. She really only cared about my new office, which she checked out with a little sniff. I know, Albert chuckled. He can make it his own when he gets settled. We left our car, Oscar, in the underground parking and walked into town. I wasn't too happy with the phone plan deals I found, so we ended up grabbing a new smartphone for Demi at Tesco. A bit of paperwork and cash, and now Demi could reach me anytime, and I could do the same. The rest of my week was spent getting to know the folks I worked with and finding my place there. I won't dive into that. It's not that it's boring, but it's not really what this story about me and Demi is about. Sometimes work held me up longer than I'd like, and if Demi was in town, she had to wait for me. Luckily, she could use one of our meeting rooms to study or practice. Most days, she was at the university, brushing up on her piano skills. She met and even wowed some of the music teachers there. The big day came. Demi stayed the night before with my folks and her mom. Her dad was busy, as we guessed. I showed up at the town hall in my best suit. Demi, wearing a bright yellow dress that looked great with her dark hair, stood by me, led by my dad. A few work friends I used to know, Albert Vannon, Evelyn Meadow, and some from the university came with Demi's and my mom to see us get hitched. I didn't think we'd have guests, just close family, but Mom and Demi had other plans. After we had a meal at a hotel nearby, listened to short speeches, then Demi and I took a train to Hope. Our honeymoon was mainly house hunting, but we did spend a few days on Oscar Island, always returning to Hope by night. I liked a big old house near the university, but it was too expensive, close to $500,000 and costly to keep up. Not far, we found a big updated terrace house. It had a living room, dining room, and kitchen, plus a hallway on the ground floor, 3 bedrooms and a bathroom on the first floor, and a big cozy attic with windows facing both ways. Demi loved the attic right away. With the house ready to go and no waiting, things moved fast. faster than Demi getting into the university. Once we knew when we were moving, we had to buy furniture, carpets, curtains, and kitchen stuff. I didn't want to use the things from the motorhome. It didn't make sense. While we picked out my old things and planned to get them, we kept living in the van and going to work. At night, we'd sit and work together. I got Demi a big laptop with music software. I think it was Sibelius. And our phones gave us internet. One night, just for a change, I played some folk music from YouTube instead of classical. I like a lot of different music, and that time I found some American country music. The musicians, often not pros, were really good on banjo, guitar, and violin. We listened to a couple playing Salty Dog Blues with banjos, guitars, a fiddle, and a double bass. Demi looked up. "What's that?" "I guess it's country or bluegrass, kind of American folk music." "Play that again, Nolan." She moved to see the screen and the song title. "Thanks." Then she got headphones for us, which we used when we needed to focus, and went back to her work. I didn't think much of it at the time. In late October, we moved into the house. They put in the carpet Demi liked. My mom and Demi picked it out, but they asked what I thought. My dad, me, and some guys from work put together IKEA furniture. We started up the old heating to warm up the place. The living room, dining room, and 2 bedrooms had fireplaces that were safe to use. I checked them, and a pro made sure they were okay and clean. So, I got a bunch of coal that doesn't smoke too much. Central heating works well and might cost less than a fire, but on a cold, wet, gray day, nothing beats a fire. One Sunday night in early November, we moved in. Our van stayed parked near Hope, kept warm just enough. Poor Oscar had to use the back patio and his cover. I thought to myself, I need to get him a shed soon. So there we were, settled in our old but newly fixed-up home, complete with fast internet and all the modern needs. That includes a big shower that gets hot water straight away from our combi boiler. I must say, nothing beats the fun of showering with my Demi, not even climbing down ropes, sailing, or flying in small planes. I was all caught up with work for my company, and Demi was deep into her university study. Learning in the UK is different from some other rich countries. You pick your main subjects at 16 to meet university entry needs, which takes 2 years. By 18 or later, students are expected to know some history and have good skills in math and reading. So, getting a bachelor's degree full-time takes 3 years here. But if a student needs more basics, they start with a foundation course. This just means Demi jumped right into her main topic. What I didn't realize was how broad her course was or how much students were pushed to learn outside the basics. One evening in early December, Demi walked into the living room while I was half watching a history show, Science and Islam. She had her violin and laptop with her. "Can I interrupt?" she asked. Of course. I paused the show, not sure how long she would need. She sat by me and quickly used her laptop. The sound of a banjo, kind of thin thanks to the not-so-great speakers, filled the air, and she grabbed her violin, or I guess her fiddle. Anyway, the tune ended, and she put her fiddle on a chair close by. "What do you think?" She stopped the computer from playing more. I might not be the best to say, but it sounded awesome to me. She let out a breath. "Good. We're thinking about starting a group to play what you could call folk music from different places, mixing it up to make something new." "That sounds cool." She dropped down on the sofa next to me and leaned in, asking without words for my arm around her. "I love you, Nolan. I'm scared to think of what might have been if I hadn't met you." I gently touched her growing belly. "But you did meet me. We're together, and we'll face everything as one. You aim for the stars while I'll be here watching and listening." Christmas came, and we spent it at my folks' place, with Mom and Demi making a big tasty dinner. Darina couldn't come, as her husband was still mad, calling his daughter names. But we had fun, especially when a few days after Christmas, we went to FTH Hall to hear Demi and some pals play folk music from all over. We heard tunes from Celtic lands, bluegrass, English folk, Khmer, and Hungarian Chartis. Demi and I had met in late June. Her baby was due in February, and she made it to February before the real labor kicked in at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I took her to the Jessup wing of the Royal Hallamar after just 7 hours. Yeah, I know it wasn't me going through it, but I stayed by her side. Our daughter was born 7 pounds 5 ounces, with skin a lovely cafe au lait color. I watched as our little one started to feed from Demi until I saw fear on Demi's face. She's pretty, I said with a smile, almost as pretty as her mom. Demi seemed to ease a bit. Dear, I continued, you know I thought about everything, right? Demi moved our baby to the other side. I had hoped. It's going to be tough. I'm not leaving you, my love, and I won't rob her of a normal life either. Thanks. Her face twisted up, and tears started to fall. It's not that I doubted you, Nolan, it's just. The baby let go, and I looked at the nurse. Can I hold my daughter? The nurse looked at me a bit surprised, but fixed the baby's blanket and gave her to me. I held her close, blue eyes looked up at me. I wondered if they would stay blue. Demi's were gray, mine light blue. So, Sylvia, welcome to the world. What happened a month after Sylvia came was bound to happen. We tried hard to spend time together. This meant Demi sometimes met me for lunch in a kid-friendly place. I say it was bound to happen. I never thought I'd see my ex-wife in a city Italian place. Demi and I were enjoying our pasta and fizzy drink. Well, I was. Sylvia woke up while Demi was still eating and needed to feed. With her back to the room, Demi fed her without much show, but yeah, I looked up, as you do when someone walks in, to see Beverly looking fancy with a man in snazzy clothes. Okay, I didn't know him, but he fit what I heard them being in Mama's and Papa's was odd. I'd have pegged them for ego. She spotted me and looked confused, walked over, leaving her date to get a table. Well, Nolan. I thought you were gone, hit the road. Yep, did that. Comet gave me an offer too good to pass up, plus I wanted to stay put this time. I looked at Demi, then my eyes landed on Sylvia. She your new one? I pretended to be thinking. Not quite. I gave up, she's actually getting better. Beverly looked angry, so I didn't feel bad about saying what I meant. She's not yours, and I never said she was stupid. Glancing toward Sylvia, she seemed slightly delighted. Seed not by blood, true, but Demi came with Sylvia, and I was glad to take both. You were too kind all the time, don't you think that was a good thing? What would have happened if I had sued you? She appeared tense, she turned, spoke softly, and gestured wildly to a man before leaving the room with a lawyer and appearing perplexed. Demi watched as I finished my meal, and Sylvia consumed hers. Then, as Sylvia was patting my shoulder, I reached to grab the little one. Demi bit into it, chewed it, and then swallowed. Yes, your ex-wife. You treated her harshly. You've never looked like that to me. I really hope you never do. But don't feel bad for her, she was untrue and didn't care, which is good, or we wouldn't be here now. There was a loud burp from my shoulder. I'll go change Sylvia. I got up and took Sylvia's purse. I can do that. You could, but finish your lunch. I gave her a hair kiss and left to use the bathroom. Demi took Sylvia home after our breakup, and I returned to work, but not before thinking about Beverly and all the new things in my life. Even with Beverly's disparaging remarks, I was happier than I can remember. I had chosen a straightforward life, but something unexpected happened. I discovered that I was in need of things I was unaware I was lacking: a roof over my head, clothing, food and water, and real friends. March, almost 3 years after Demi and I first got together, I rode my bike, Oscar, northward. Yes, it might have made more sense to take the work car, but I really enjoy riding and don't get to do it much these days. Traveling at a speed of 50 to 60 miles per hour, the ride was quite lengthy. A large customer required a visit from a senior member of my team to discuss their technical issues, and they also required a tech specialist. I leaped at the opportunity. My official purpose for being there was to satisfy the client for 2 days, on Thursday and Friday, but I stayed on Saturday instead of leaving. Darina let herself in. Nolan, please come in. How are you doing? My daughter and granddaughter are doing well. Yes, even though I haven't seen them in 3 days. I wanted to stop by since I've been working here, assisting one of your local businesses. Would you mind putting this down? She pointed in the hallway at my bike gear. Of course, I'd surely get too hot inside otherwise. I began stripping down to my underwear and shirt from the multiple layers I had on for the Oscar ride. Darina ushered me into Demi's father's living room. I hoped it was a good sign when he got up as I walked in. Mr. Ballas, Nolan Bennington, the guy who married my unplanned daughter and took in her baby. I saw him hesitate, considering what to say. They weren't cruel, at least. Yes, sir, I am married to a very intelligent, attractive, and talented woman. I was more interested in who she is, her spirit, and her talents than in her past. I guess neutral is the right word to describe his look, and I continued. She's going to graduate with highest honors from her Bachelor of Arts program. Although it's not confirmed yet, the teachers say it's a given. He paused, and I went on, she still has a great deal of love for her family. If you could make it to her graduation, that would mean so much. He was silent. I replied, Mr. Ballas, thinking Yanko would just marry and be a perfect homemaker is like, well, driving a race car just to shop, or wearing your best clothes to cut grass or wash your car, maybe. He took a deep breath and exhaled. I've tried to convince myself that I was correct, but Darina has shown me pictures and told me about Janka. Janka appears content. I'm hoping she is. I think she is. Sylvia, the little one, is also doing fantastically. September is when she'll begin school. Although we found a good daycare nearby, she has been attending one. My parents are also a big help. She's sorry Darina can't see her more often. I understand that. Is it not bothering you that Sylvia isn't actually your child? I simply shrugged. I cherish her and her mother. Her father is me. That is what matters. After giving it some thought, I said, we can assist if traveling to Sheffield is difficult. At our place, there is space. I'll give it some thought. Will you spend the evening with us? I believe Darina has prepared a delicious lunch. I would like to speak with you more. Many thanks, sir. I'll continue. Janka is waiting for me tomorrow, Demi. I promised to visit some galleries and museums. You didn't tell her you were coming here? No, she might guess, but I didn't want to get her hopes up too high. June arrived, and with it, graduation. I was a little disappointed. Darina, I thought, would show up at least. I brought Sylvia to the park to kill time after getting Demi to the Octagon early to pick up her robes and find a seat. There, we met my parents, who were attending the ceremony, of course. Sylvia didn't know what was going on, but when someone pointed her out, she saw her mother on stage. Really, she did a great job. Later, I was outside a large building with a group of other families and students, standing with Sylvia and my parents. Still wearing her cap and gown, Demi appeared, her gaze sweeping over the throng until she caught sight of Sylvia, who I had raised up on my shoulders, moving through the crowd. After a brief kiss, she took hold of my hand. Good job, my love. I'm incredibly proud of you. My parents also expressed their congratulations. She turned to face my parents and said, Nolan, you're the reason I'm here today, and of course, your help, Mom, Dad. Suddenly there was a cough from behind us. Janka, a slightly accented man's voice. Demi quickly turned. Dad, Mom, she uttered as she and her father stood there staring at one another in silence. Janka, I'm sorry, her father said, clearing his throat. My little girl, my dear. After a long moment, Darina, my parents, Sylvia, and I were all watching as Demi was crying and hugging her dad. Sylvia was leaning forward and calling me Daddy, which hurt my neck. I set her down. Dad, why is Mommy crying? I knelt to her height. Sometimes when people are really happy, they cry, I said. She approached Demi and tugged at the train of the dress. Mommy. I caught up, handed a tissue to Demi. She wiped her tears and let go of her father, reaching down to pick up Sylvia and taking our daughter in one arm. She faced her father once more. This is Sylvia, my daughter, Dad. This is your grandfather, Sylvia. That's the Hungarian for granddad. Hello, Sylvia, her grandfather greeted her. I was shocked to see Sylvia turn in her mother's arms and make eye contact with Mr. Balaz. Demi nodded as he looked at her, and he took Sylvia. Sylvia buried her face in his neck as she tightly wrapped her arms around him. As we all watched, the tears returned. We shook hands after I showed him my parents. Darina snapped the silence. Her words, I'm hungry, I think there's food at the student center. She glanced at her man, then back at me. Demi nodded when I glanced at her. Sure, let's have a look, I replied. Observing my child with her new grandfather, I assumed she would want to come visit me or Demi, or go for a walk by herself, as she usually does. She said, stay here, in the man's coat, her voice a little soft but firm. Okay. The man caught up as we made our way to the location. Nolan, can I ask something? Sure. Speaking softly, almost imploringly, he said, please call me Tor or Papa or Dad. For me, it was simple. I grinned. I'd like that, Tor. There were many options for dinner. We decided on chicken with spices. I knew my child would eat it since Demi had made it before. And my child, she hung around Tor's neck until the food arrived, then took a high seat beside him. We managed to find room for fruit pie and chilled cream despite our full stomachs. My child has finished the cream. We talked a lot with Demi's school friends before heading home. Demi had to return for a music night that ended with mixed music, so we had a little time before she had to go. Her parents were easy to convince to come. There was music from all over the world played, along with songs by well-known composers like Dvorak and Vaughan Williams. There was one surprise, though. To sing, Demi stood up. I appreciate you being here. We had a great time performing the songs, so I hope you enjoy them too. A Shokin Farewell is a song I want to dedicate to someone special before it starts. He is aware that it is for him since without him. You'll know this one, are you ready? I wouldn't be here today. Demi backed off and Adam with his deep voice, stepped up, leading the band from the outset. Seek out the small, seemingly insignificant details. Let go of your anxieties and difficult moments. I refer to the basic necessities of life, nature's own mix, to be exact. Regardless of where I go or stay, I adore my spacious home. Bees and trees buzz, producing honey specifically for me. Try it when you peek beneath the rocks and greenery and notice those clever ants. You'll find the small things in life. Seek out the small, seemingly insignificant details. Forget your concerns and difficult moments as well. I'm talking about the little things. Why a bear, content with the little things in life, sleeps soundly. Next time, exercise caution and avoid using your hand to grab the sharp pear instead of your pawpaw when you grab one and take a bite out of it. Try the claw stand for pear seeking, but you don't need the claw to obtain a pair of big paws. Is it clear to you now that the little things in life will come to you? They'll track you down. I'm telling you, kids, that if you rush like that bee, you're trying too hard. So, chill, relax, take it easy, and let loose in my backyard. Additionally, when you discover you can live without something, don't waste time searching everywhere for it. Instead, move on without giving it a second thought. It is true what they say, you will find the small things in life. Sing for the easy, carefree pleasures in life. Give up all of your battles and fears. Yes, I am referring to the small pleasures in life. A bear only enjoys the small pleasures in life, which is why it sleeps soundly. Yes, with only the basic pleasures in life. Yes, that Terry Gillisan song. Walt Disney Music Company. Warner Chappell Music Incorporated copyright. As Adam made a bow and Demi waved, beaming, there were many laughs. Then, with Demi leading on her violin, they began a Shokin farewell. Early in the show, Sylvia, who hadn't left Nappa's side, passed out in his arms, but he seemed fine with it. Just as Dad was introducing us to an elderly woman with white hair, Demi arrived, violin in one hand and flute in the other. "Professor, you know my wife Shirley, but here are my son Nolan and his wife Janka, and Janka's folks Darina and Tibor Balaz," the eminent professor said. He came to an end. "Demo. You borrowed that violin from Professor Clayton." Demi, the woman, appeared perplexed. "I was named Janka, but for years I went by Demetria because some kid found it amusing." Demi handed the flute case to me and moved the violin from her right hand to her left. "Thank you, Doctor, it's an F-class item. I suppose I ought to go out and get one of my own, huh?" Professor Clayton said, "Oh no," holding up her arthritic hands. "No, sweetie, I want it to belong to you. I'm glad to pass it to a talented person like you because I haven't played in years. Although I've always liked your music, this one is particularly great." She surveyed her surroundings. "Where?" "Oh," she said, beckoning to a man I had encountered a few times. "Ah, Mrs. Bennington, Janka," he grinned at my parents after saying hello to Demi. "I'm glad you showed me this lovely lady, Brent, Shirley." He turned to face my wife again. "We'll communicate soon, Janka, but I had to let you know now. We would like to hire you for your master's and possibly your PhD, but it's been a little slow to check. I'm sure you're capable. We were waiting on financial assistance. I'm hoping you'll say yes." Demi looked shocked. She said, "I thank you, sir," without knowing what to say. I didn't believe I had copied my first degree. I should discuss it with my spouse. "Yes, and there's not a hurry. You have obligations to your family, I know." With another smile, he walked away from us. Professor Clayton, who was still grinning, became serious and lightly touched Demi's shoulder. "I think you should look further, Professor. You've got a true skill," she said, adding that you must choose what makes you and your loved ones happy. "I just want to say thank you for this." She raised the violin case. "And for your assistance. I'll give it some serious thought and speak with Nolan, Brent, Shirley, and my parents." We departed, with Tor carrying Sylvia and not displaying any signs of fatigue. Sylvia was put to bed at home and never woken up. Except for my dad, we all had a drink. He had arranged with Mom and Dorina to have the bass visit us unexpectedly. Dorina and Tor took tiny sips of the Hungarian Palenka, a sort of apricot beverage that Dad had discovered. Mom had a glass of white wine as usual. Demi chose famous grouse, and I chose the same. Seeing how much Sylvia enjoyed ginger beer, Dad stuck to it while driving. I told him and Dorina that they didn't have to return to ING Birchworks, they could stay with us. "Dara and I are prepared because your dad figured you might inquire. We wish we could stay." "I'm grateful." Later, I was skin on skin with Demi in bed. As people moved about, the house produced quiet noises. Demi was beside me, leaning against my front. I was touching her chest while lying on my back. It had almost returned to its previous size since Sylvia had stopped nursing. It had a larger tip and made a gentle sound when I applied pressure. "What do you want?" "I want to make you happy." "I am very happy, love." "I don't know what to do, Nolan. But I have all I could ever want, Demi." I believed that all I wanted was to be comfortable, eat, and enjoy my favorite music. I have everything I need instead, plus you, who is very special to me. "What about the kids?" "You're very good with Sylvia, but it's okay, love, if Sylvia is all we have. There is still more for you to learn. If you would like, we can speak with your teacher and possibly 1 or 2 more children." "I love you," you say. "Good, because I genuinely adore you." Hi there. Please feel free to forward these contents to your friends and family if you find them useful. In addition, as is customary, if you like this video, please click the like button to support our podcast in reaching a larger audience on YouTube, as the platform favors videos with a high number of likes. You might also think about becoming a subscriber to the channel so you can be notified whenever I post something new. YouTube will let you know as appropriate. I appreciate your help, and I hope you have an amazing day.